welcome to everyone. So glad you're all here.
We are here today to commemorate the life of Madeline Williamson and honor her commitment to her work as a musician and teacher, as well as her devotion to the communities of Adagio, Las Almas, and the entire state of New Mexico. I knew Madeline for almost 20 years since she moved to our area. She established her piano studio in Las Almas and immediately became a valuable member of PMTNM, Las Almas, and Las Almas music teacher communities. She was, for this year, she had lots of duties. She was a district vice president. She was organizer, honor coordinator, and chairman for lots of music recital in Las Almas. She also established a festival in Adagio. So her commitment to community was really valuable and here. But for me, she was not only a colleague, but also a dear friend and mentor. I will always remember our conversation and our discussion of different events and her high standard in every aspect of teaching and performing music. She was really devoted musician. I'm very honored to be a part of memorial service today and pay tribute to Madeline Williamson. Now we will proceed with our program, and I just want to announce, and everybody, you can see in the program that there is a space that everyone who would like can talk and say a few words. So we will proceed with program, and next I give this stage to Bakkum from Dallas.
I think Madeline would agree it's much easier to play than talk. So I have a few words to say, and it's just a joy to be here with Madeline. And Sally Gunter said something to me the other day. She said, I always got the most beautiful emails from Madeline and letters. So I thought I would write Madeline a letter in gratitude for everything. It says, Dearest Madeline, isn't it remarkable that my former teacher in Kalamazoo was as well your teacher? And we only found this out at our first meeting at a Los Alamos meeting. And I think it was quite remarkable that we shared that. And then we sat, I think, for 3 or 4 hours talking shop and talking life. And I knew she was going to be a beautiful colleague and beautiful friend from there on out. We were really instant colleagues, but more poignant. You, Brigitte, and my husband, John, and I had so many lovely times together, sitting by the pond or sitting by the river, and really having wonderful conversations. I think Madeline might have been the sole person that could stand up to my husband with her banter and her laughter, and she always won, without question. Her humor was contagious, very contagious, and though subtle and sometimes bold, it always invoked laughter, frivolity, and joy. As a friend, Madeline, you always spoke heart to heart with passion and sincerity. Your passions as well included your beloved pups and kitties, which revealed a soft side of you that was caring and so very lovely. I can just picture you on your deck, relaxing, gazing at the river, and delighting in Mother Nature's offerings. When I visit Adagio, I always love looking off to the right in anticipation of seeing the beacon of light that radiates from your special home. On the musical side, you always said the answers to life and artistry are found secretly disguised in the musical score. The piece I will play is translated as the graceful maiden, and I'm not going to call Madeline a maiden because I think she she might disagree with me, but a maiden she is. The piece reveals a lot of grace, intensity, and intimacy, much like you, that surrounded us so generously. I hope you know that you always encouraged all of us, students and friends alike, to trust in ourselves. You have a wonderful way of elevating those around you to be more than we ever imagined, making us feel as if we were the only person in the room. I say to you, Madeline, with the highest of gratitude and love, that you are a beautiful force of nature, a remarkable woman of substance. Our teacher told me when I found out you were here in New Mexico, she said, oh, she's a real mensch. If you don't know this word, it's defined as somebody who's a friend, somebody who's very supportive, and who is calm in troubled times. A beautiful testament to you, Madeline. Thank you again, Madeline, for embracing us with your phenomenal offerings. Actually, I so hope you feel the offering of our love and admiration as your fans and enthusiastic best audience. Here's to you, Madeline, whom we hold close to our hearts and celebrate you with a standing ovation. Brava, bravissimo, Madeline.
Julian. Yes, yes, yes. Good.
Put the stamper here.
Former Madeline Williamson students. Some of them switch instrument, some of them play violin, but they all former Madeline students. Oh, I'm sorry. I just mentioned that all students who will perform here, they're all former Madeline students. Some of them switch instrument, playing violin now, but that she gives them foundation, love for music, and expressiveness and all this that they will present to us. Sorry, now Patricia.
It is with such grace that we come together at this time, in this place, to celebrate and yes, mourn the life of Madeline Williamson. It is so appropriate that her students are giving a recital in her honor because her teaching was foremost in her musical life. We all thank the students today for wanting to share their music in order to honor Dr. Madeline. I became acquainted with Dr. Madeline in the spring of 2017, shortly after my husband and I moved to Santa Fe. Dr. Madeline was looking for a piano teacher to share her studio in Los Alamos and to teach with her. We came to find we had remarkably similar paths in our musical educations and were born the same year, both from small Ohio towns in central Ohio. Sharing studio space, I soon discovered that Madeline's tremendous commitment to teaching her students, how could I miss? She was full service in every conceivable way. And yes, I learned from her, and I am grateful for her help in developing my piano class in Los Alamos. In closing, there are many lessons we can learn as students from Dr. Madeline. She used all her talents fully. She was courageous and honest about her physical limitations as her disease progressed and accepted all of it with grace and dignity. We will miss her and continue to learn from her example. Praise to you, Madeline, from all of us.
to remember a truly special person who brought music into our lives. It means a lot to me being a non-musical person. Madeline was our kids' piano teacher for 12 years for our oldest, 9 for our middle child, and 7 for our youngest. She became more than just a teacher to us. She became a regular part of our family. During the pandemic, she was in our house virtually through Zoom and Skype. Madeline was known for her meticulous notes, organization, and having fun shoes and socks. Her reception room was filled with laughter of waiting kids, creating a warm and welcoming atmosphere for her students. This was where John and Natan first met, and their friendship began, before they began piano, just waiting for their older siblings. One of the most amazing things about Madeline was her ability to have extended, respectful conversations with everyone, even when opinions differed, whether it was religion, politics, social norms. She was always respectful and listened to each other's perspective. One thing she shared with me, this is personal, was a love for Star Trek. Starting and going back through the last movie in 2013, memories of the past, television shows, we always had that weird interest in common. Madeline's generosity was unmatched, and she created many special memories for us. Well, our home is filled with Christmas gifts, statuettes of composers and books and music, Christmas ornaments, paperweights, all given to our kids from Madeline with love and a very careful thought. Madeline was really strict in her teaching, but she was also incredibly kind and forgiving. She always looked beyond our mistakes and helped us carry on. One time when we thought we mailed a check, but we found it in our bag weeks later, Madeline was understanding and didn't make a big deal about it. Another personal note, Madeline and I shared quiet mornings here while we set up for recitals at Crossroads. During recitals and competitions, Madeline always had a calming presence and a warm smile, making even the most nervous of us and students at ease. She was always there to provide guidance and support, and her dedication to students was second to none. Madeline was truly one of a kind. Our family is grateful for the time we spent with Madeline, and we'll be forever thankful to God for bringing her into our lives. She was truly a star in the world of music and education, and her legacy will live on through the lives she touched and the memories she created. Thanks.
usually cry, so expect it. I thought that the performances, all of you young people, were especially sensitive. Just bore the stamp of Madeline and how she must have taught you. Oh, wonderful. I think that I was reminded that she said once that she didn't like to baby her students. She liked to just speak to them as one adult to another, and speak to them about real music making. Obviously that was the right approach, because it surely is in evidence today. And then I wanted to say that I haven't seen Madeline so many dozens of times in my life, like maybe 6 or 7 in the time I've known her. It was maybe 2012 or so. But I felt like I knew her so well. I felt like she was a good friend the minute that I met her. And I think that was because of her, not because of me. I think she just kind of radiated a comfort and genuine curiosity and appreciation of other people. And that leads me to the other thing I wanted to say, that she just obviously had a light within that was so bright that it radiated far beyond her. And it was just like this umbrella of light that made other people feel like they were bright and shining too. How she did that, I guess, was just honest, complete, and utter appreciation of people around her. And it made me think, well, she must really like herself, because usually we see on the outside who we are on the inside. And she was so deeply appreciative and so other-oriented that I didn't actually know what a distinguished career she'd had until I talked to other people who told me where she had been and everything she had done, everything she was doing with the series and with her students and with the PMTNM. And so I just wanted to say that that was just a rare light that I'm blessed to have experienced. So thank you, Madeline. My name is Laura Spitzer, and I teach at NMSU. I'm here today for the memorial, so glad to be here. Thank you.
Alexander from Albuquerque.
Good morning. I wanted to be here today to help celebrate the life of Madeline Williamson. I've known Madeline for many, many years. In fact, we were born in the same year. I didn't realize that until today when I saw the front of the program. But I didn't realize I was going to be asked to speak today. But I'm most happy to do so. Madeline was a wonderful and beloved supporter of the Danzas Argentinas piano competition in Albuquerque, which we held for 10 years. Every year, Madeline would bring down some of these wonderful students that you're hearing today to participate in the competition, and every year many of her students won prizes in the competition. And I think this today is such a perfect tribute to Madeline's life. She would be so happy and so proud of all of these young performers who are here today. They will carry on her legacy of teaching. We've heard other speakers this morning talk about Madeline the person, and I mentioned in my notes in the guest book this morning that Madeline was a force of nature. Everywhere she went, I think it's like Laura mentioned, the room would light up. She loved music. She loved teaching, I think, more than anything. And her students were always so beautifully prepared. And I especially loved the way each time they were in a competition, and after the competition, both the students who won prizes and the students who didn't win prizes were still loved and hugged and were told how proud she was of them. Yesterday morning I was watching a webinar that was being put on by the Francis Clark Center of Music in Princeton, New Jersey. Jennifer Snow, who is the CEO of the Francis Clark Center, was interviewing a very good friend of mine, William Chapaniaho, who's from South Africa, and he lives in Seattle, Washington. But at the end of this webinar, she asked Niaho, who's a very, very wonderful teacher, pianist, scholar, she asked him, what do you think is the most important legacy that a teacher could leave her students? And he thought about it for a second, but he responded with this. He said, kindness. And I thought that was so profound that he would mention that. Because as teachers of young people, I've always felt that being kind in everything that we do, we can be demanding, we can be scholarly, but being kind, I think, is one of the most important things, and that certainly described Madeline to a T. And I just want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank and congratulate the students who are performing today. And as I said earlier, there can be no better tribute to Madeline than to have these wonderful young people performing on the stage today to honor her. Thank you very much.
So before I play my piece, I want to tell you all the backstory behind how I picked my piece. So when I was younger, like 11 years old, Madeline introduced me to the composer Clara Schumann. And she seemed to admire Clara Schumann a lot. And at the time, I didn't really know why. I thought maybe it's because she's a woman, she's a virtuoso, she's very good at playing piano. But then as time went on, I started to realize that there was beauty behind the music that Clara Schumann would write. And that's the reason why she would admire her so much. Madeline gave me a book, a biography about Clara Schumann, and I felt very touched by it at the time because she usually was like this strict teacher who seemed very distant, but as time went on and I got older, I felt that I knew her more as a person, and that we share this special connection of both admiring Clara Schumann, probably for life.
Hello everyone, my name is Mandarin Changya, and I'm from Arizona. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I knew Madeline when she was at Arizona State University on faculty there. I was her TA, she was my mentor in every sense of the word. She was a friend as well. I still remember the first day I met her, walking in, very scared and worried. It was my first, I guess you can say, job. And she was formidable at that time. And I remember registering and saying, "Don't cross this lady." And I was really nervous. And then she proceeded to smile and sat down and asked me, "How good are you with the word processor?" And I thought, why is this woman asking me this? I'm her TA. She's supposed to show me all the things I'm supposed to do to teach. She was interested in knowing how well I know how to use a word processor because she wants to make sure I know how to put my lesson plans on there so she can review all of them and put all the notes on there for us. And I thought, all right, I really must not cross this lady now because she's going to review me and all that. And there was another TA at that time by the name Mark Seaman, originally from South Africa. He's now working, I believe, and living in Czech Republic. Mark and I were DMA students, Doctor of Musical Arts students, and we had a great time with her. Our planning session with her every Thursday afternoon was always full of laughter. Not so much because I could make Madeline laugh. I was still very nervous. But Mark has a way of making her laugh so hard that the next thing you know, we are laughing about the lesson plans, how ridiculous the whole thing is. Let's chuck the whole thing and start all over again. So Madeline was truly a team player, as we would say nowadays. She was not just behaving like a boss, bossing us around, but she was really interested in how to help us, guide us to teach students. Today, when I heard her students play, they do really bear every single thumbprint of Madeline's teaching. Some of your hands, when I watch your fingers move, they were exactly the same way Madeline's fingers used to move on piano when she used to demonstrate some of the things she wanted us to do. Now, mind you, I was her TA and Mark was her TA for class piano. And for those of you who are familiar with the difference between private piano lessons and class piano, we have to teach a whole bunch of music majors that are not interested in being in class piano because that was a requirement for the music degree. So regardless what instrument you're on, if you don't pass the piano requirement, then you have to take class piano. And so we had to teach a bunch of instrumentalists that are not interested in being in that class. And Madeline showed us ways to preview new pieces. And very often, these are pieces by Kavalevsky, Shostakovich, little teaching pieces. I remember a lot of pieces by Danzas Argentinas, on the roster of things that we're supposed to teach them. And she would spend time showing us how to preview each one of those pieces with them, the patterns we can use, the fingerings, help them to realize those fingerings. And like you said, she did not believe in babying the students, but she believes in giving them the tools to figure out things for themselves. And so she would give out the skeleton fingerings and the patterns for them, preview them with them, and then they expected to figure out the rest. We also have to teach non-music majors, and these are the ones that want to be there. These are the people that regret they never took the piano lessons seriously when their parents gave them the opportunity. And now that they're in the university, and it's a cheap way to learn piano, they're all there now. And again, Madeline spent all that time showing us ways to engage these students. Madeline, I knew Madeline at the time before she became Dr. Williamson. She was working on her PhD in administrative duties. I can't remember exactly what the degree was, but I remember afternoon after afternoon, she would come in from her statistics class, complaining to me how fascinating and boring it is at the same time. And she would also encourage me to speak up to my committee chairs about the dissertation topic that I wanted to write on, and it was kind of received lukewarm at first. Madeline was also a friend to me because she would talk about her relationship, and she would talk about how important it is for me to balance my relationship with my career so that I do not let my career overtake my relationship. Mind you, at that time I was studying with a very good high-powered teacher who treated her boy students and girl students very differently. I was fortunate enough to be considered a boy student, which means I get long lessons, I get very, very detailed lessons. But I remember when I met my husband, to be at that time, I was scared to tell him I was engaged, that I was going to be married. Madeline told me, she first of all, when I told her about it, she jumped up, hugged me and said, how wonderful. This is wonderful indeed. And I remember she did get a chance to meet my husband, to be very, briefly at that time. And she was genuinely friendly to him and very nice. Unlike my teacher who met my husband to be at that time and gave him a look, and if looks could kill, he would have been dead. Yeah, basically it was like, oh well, you stole her away from me now. But Madeline was, every sense of the word, a mentor, a friend. And she really, I realized looking back now, looking at all the way you play, I realized she was the one that really has somehow shaped my pedagogical philosophy. For my 2 years of teaching at Arizona School for the Arts, which was class piano, but they expected everybody to do the private lesson route. Like, so imagine sitting in the classroom with 12 pianists at 12 pianos, and you're supposed to, in 1 hour, and you're supposed to produce a recital of pieces, like you would come up here to play at the end of your semester. Madeline gave me inspiration and the tools, and the understanding that making the students want to do it for themselves is more important than giving them rules and the regulations that they have to follow. And so she has influenced me in such a deep and profound way that I didn't even recognize until looking back after all these years. So I met Madeline August 15th, 1988, probably before any of you has ever met her. And I know things about her that very few people have the privilege to know about her. Perhaps besides Brigitte, she's the only one. I haven't seen her since 2000, and we have kept in touch, but not on a regular basis. But the one thing I have to say most grateful to her was when I applied for a job, and I needed to get the application in by 5 p.m. It was a last minute thing that came up. Somebody told me about that job, and I found out at the last minute just that morning. I found Madeline's contact information, emailed her, and I said, could I trouble you for, a recommendation? Because you're the only one that I actually TA'd for that actually was for piano specifically, and for class piano. And she said, well, I'm on the way to start teaching, so it may be tomorrow, would that be okay? I said, that's fine. I just need to get my stuff in by 5 p.m. I was so fortunate to have Madeline on my side, because when I show up 2 days later for the interview, the director told me, she said, oh, all your recommendations show up before your application showed up. So Madeline actually took the time to do it for me. I don't know what time she did it that night, but she did it for me. So she's really a true mentor and a friend. And last, I want to say, I'm also representing, not officially, but Arizona State Music Teachers Association and East Valley Music Teachers Association. And our condolences for your loss. Thank you so much.
One second. My hands are really sweaty, so I'm gonna talk about why I picked this piece to let them calm down a bit. Anyway, I picked, Dr. Madeline's taught me a lot of pieces in the past, and when I heard we were gonna do a little recital for her, I was thinking I had to do a Chopin piece, because I always have the most fun learning Chopin with Dr. Madeline. The first time I had Chopin with Dr. Madeline, she let me play with her little gel highlighters. Those were my favorite when I was like, I don't know, 10. the second time I played Chopin, I was in a competition, and she said I bowed like a duck. And so the last Chopin piece she taught me was actually this one. It's a waltz, and I remember the second day I learned this with her, she gave me a little waltzing lesson, slow dancing. 30 minutes of it, I slow danced with her across the floor. So I think that was like one of my favorite pieces. So yeah.
have tie. Oh, yes, tie. Sorry.
before I attend. So I apologize if I can't express myself well. Two of my kids, Sean and Lyla, have learned piano from Madeline for several years. She have taught them a lot. When I listened Lyla play the first sorrow this morning, it's brought back a lot of memory. Dr. Madeline first taught Lyla this piece when she was 7. Lyla has no idea what the sorrow is. I remember Dr. Madeline on that bench told her tons of sad story, all kind of different sad story, tried to help her to understand what the sorrow is. So in honor of Dr. Madeline, Lyla decided to play this piece for her. So here we want to say, Dr. Madeline, thank you for use your own life to teach Lyla one more lesson, which is about sorrow. You are the first one she lost in her young life. We hope you enjoy how she interprets the piece, and then may you rest in peace.
anticipated coming to talk, so forgive me if I'm not as articulate as one might wish. I met Madeline when she first moved here, and we were both building a house, far apart, but building a house in the area. And we sat on a stool for probably 2 hours complaining and talking about how horrible the experience was. Well, we did both finish our houses, but what I didn't understand was Madeline's house was not a house. It was a place to be shared. The whole house was built for her concerts. And when she started the music festival, I was there at the first concert where Madeline was the performer. She did it all. It progressed through the years into the most incredible of experiences. And what Madeline was passionate about was this was concerts for everyone. Everyone who wanted to could attend. And it took a lot of sacrifice on her part and on Brigida's part to make that happen. And for all of us who were so lucky to have gotten to share that with her, thank you, Madeline.
couple of words. First of all, there's a little technical change in the program. I am going to play a piece by Edvard Grieg, but not the one that's listed there. I'm playing a piece called Våren, which is spring in English. And I was coming alone to play this. It has a piano accompaniment, which I was not going to use. But my dear colleague and friend Kim, I asked about 20 minutes before the concert began if she would play this with me, and she very graciously said yes. So, and I thought this would be so lovely because it's a beautiful melody, but the harmonies underneath make it so very special. So thank you, Kim. I chose this piece, Våren, of Edvard Grieg, because of a couple of things. It made me think about Madeline very much, and about her as a person, and about her circumstances, and her life in these last years in New Mexico on the river, the Chopin River. Edvard Grieg lived in Western Norway in the late 19th century, and wrote in a little tiny cottage looking out into beautiful nature, very peaceful. And so this piece called Spring reflected his mood about the coming of spring after the breaking up of the ice floes and all of the bitter winter that could happen in Norway in those days. And it reminded me, first of all, about Madeline, my dear friend and colleague, who met and overcame several times the challenge of her illness with renewed energy each time, and sort of recreating her amazing abilities to continue living a full and rich life, giving so much to her students and her friends. And the other thing about this piece is that it was written originally with verse. And the verse talks about, of course, the blooming of the new flowers and the leafing out of the trees and the singing of the birds. And I thought how much Madeline and Brigitte, her dear Brigitte, loved and do love being so close to nature and seeing what happens in all of the seasons, but particularly in the spring when the new flocks of birds come and they're waiting for perhaps a beaver family that has nestled around the river, and seeing the elk come to water in the evenings. So all of this reminds me that, as the words of this song say, in the blooming of the flowers and in the appearance of the new spring, the spirits from the past, those we've loved in the past, are there with us. And they are speaking to us in the rebirth of the world. And so I know that as we are looking for spring now, and Brigitte will be there looking out over the river and loving what she has always loved, that Madeline will not be there physically, but her spirit will be there, I'm very sure. So this is spring.